The courtroom was already tense when Jane took the stand, but no one was prepared for what she was about to say. Eyes locked on her, she took a shaky breath and stared directly toward Diddy. Her voice, though quiet, cut through the air like a blade. He looked at me like I was nothing. Like I wasn't even human. That night, Diddy thought I was going to die. The room froze. Even the judge paused. What came next would send chills down every spine in the courtroom. Jane began to describe a hotel suite drenched in low red light, where music pulsed, and silence was a command. She said she had been promised a business meeting, but what she walked into was a carefully staged trap. There were cameras, people I didn't know, and once the doors locked, it wasn't about music anymore. It was about power, control, and fear. Jane trembled as she explained how Diddy allegedly ordered her to drink something from a glass she didn't recognize. Minutes later, she said her body felt weak, her head dizzy, her voice gone. I tried to speak, to say no, but I couldn't. I just remember his face calm, like this was normal. The jury sat in stunned silence, unable to blink. Then came the moment that broke the room. Jane's voice cracked as she whispered. He watched me slip under, like he was waiting for it. I swear to God, he thought I wasn't coming back. Diddy thought I was going to die. Gasps echoed in the room. Diddy's attorneys tried to object, but the damage was done. One juror covered her mouth. Another looked away entirely. Even Diddy, usually stoic, clenched his jaw, his eyes wide, darting toward his team. Jane continued. She said she woke up hours later, alone and bruised. No memory of what happened between, just flashes. Laughter, flashing lights. Her phone gone, her clothes rearranged. They made me believe it was my fault. That no one would believe me, that he was too powerful. Her hands shook as she held the mic. But today, I want everyone to hear me. I survived, barely, but I survived, and I remember everything. The courtroom sat still, drowning in the weight of her words. Diddy sat slumped, no longer confident, no longer untouchable. What began as just another day in trial had transformed into a breaking point, a moment no one in that courtroom would ever forget. As Jane stepped down from the witness stand, tears streaming, even the judge looked visibly shaken. It wasn't just a testimony, it was a warning. And Diddy, for the first time, looked like a man who knew. The truth was finally catching up to him. The courtroom was tense the moment Jane stepped in. You could feel it in the air, a silence that wasn't just quiet, but heavy, expectant. Journalists in the gallery clutched their pens tighter, defense attorneys glanced at each other, and even Diddy himself, normally composed and unbothered, sat up straighter in his seat. Everyone knew what was coming wasn't going to be easy to hear, but no one knew it would hit like this. Jane took the stand. Her hands slightly trembling as she adjusted the microphone. She didn't cry. She didn't flinch. Her voice, though, soft, had a kind of weight behind it, the kind of pain that makes the truth feel heavier than anyone's ready to carry. Her opening words stopped everything. That night, Diddy looked me in the eyes, and I swear, he thought I was going to die. Gasps echoed quietly. Someone in the gallery audibly inhaled. Even the judge leaned in slightly. Jane continued, her eyes focused on a point far away, or maybe just on a memory she'd been trying to lock away for years. She said it started with a simple invite, a supposed industry party at a luxury hotel. But the second she stepped inside, something felt off. The room was dimly lit, soaked in red and purple hues, with music vibrating through the floor. There were unfamiliar men, in expensive clothes, watching, whispering. She said the door closed behind her with a solid, echoing click. They took my phone the moment I walked in, she said. I asked why. They said it was house rules. I didn't think I was in danger. I thought it was just some rich celebrity thing, but I was wrong. Jane described being offered a drink, not by a waiter, but by Diddy himself. He smiled, she said. Not charming, not friendly, just cold. She took a sip out of pressure, not knowing what was in it. Minutes later, everything began to blur. The faces around her melted into shadows. Her limbs felt heavy. She tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come out. I realized something was wrong when I tried to stand up. And my knees gave out, she said, her voice cracking slightly for the first time. I looked up at him, and he was just watching me.com, like this had happened before. Then came the line that changed everything. That's when I knew Diddy didn't plan to help me. He didn't plan to stop anything. He looked at me like I was disposable. Like I was already gone. Her words silenced even the defense team. Jane went on to describe flashes, blurry scenes of what happened next. She remembers being on the bed, hands she didn't recognize, laughter, a camera light flashing, the feeling of people around her who weren't there to help, only to witness, and Diddy. She said he was in the corner, watching everything, directing some of it, never once stopping it. I kept thinking, this can't be real, this isn't happening, but it was. I couldn't scream, I couldn't move, and the last thing I remember before everything went black was him standing over me, and the look on his face. I'll never forget it. He wasn't scared. He wasn't concerned. He looked satisfied. At this point, even the judge had to call a brief recess. The jurors were visibly shaken. One wiped tears from her eyes. Diddy sat rigid, stone-faced, but you could tell his confidence had cracked. No one in that courtroom had expected the testimony to land like this. Jane wasn't just recounting trauma. She was exposing a ritual, a routine, something rehearsed, calculated, and repeated. When the court resumed, Jane described waking up hours later in the same room, alone, confused, her clothes half on, her body aching. She said her calls for help were ignored by hotel staff. No one questioned anything. No one reported it. It was like the entire place had been trained to look away. They made me feel like I'd imagined it, she said. Like if I tried to tell anyone, it would ruin me, not him. That's what he does. He makes you doubt your own memory. She said she spent years blaming herself. Staying silent, watching Diddy win awards, appear on magazine covers, throw parties that everyone called iconic, all while she was in therapy, trying to survive panic attacks and nightmares. But I'm done being silent, she said. He might have thought I wouldn't make it, but I did, and I'm not scared anymore. The courtroom didn't applaud. It wasn't that kind of moment. But the silence that followed was deafening. Not out of discomfort, but out of respect. The weight of her truth settled on everyone in that room. Diddy's lawyers tried to spin it in their cross-examination, calling it an emotional recollection, not a factual one. But their words felt flat, forced, weak, because for the first time, Diddy wasn't just facing legal pressure, he was facing public reckoning in real time, in front of cameras, in front of victims who finally found their voice. One reporter described the moment as the beginning of the end. Another said, "We've watched this man untouchable for decades. But today, he looked scared." As Jane stepped down from the stand, there was no victory in her walk, just strength. Quiet, earned, unwavering strength. And as she passed by Diddy's table, she didn't look at him, not because she was afraid, but because he wasn't worth it anymore. Outside the courtroom, crowds waited, protesters, survivors, journalists, all buzzing with what had just happened. But inside, something deeper had shifted. The illusion of power was cracking. The empire was shaking. And Jane's testimony might just be the match that burns it all down. The courtroom was packed. Not a single seat left. Even before Jane walked in, you could feel it, something massive was about to happen. Journalists were whispering. The camera crews had already locked in. Diddy sat stone-faced with his attorneys, but the tension in his jaw gave it away. He knew what was coming. Everyone did. Then, the doors opened. Jane stepped in. There was no spotlight, no music, just silence. But somehow, she owned the room. Not with power, with pain. With truth. She didn't need a script or notes, just a voice that carried the weight of everything she had survived. She took the stand, looked around, and then locked eyes with the jury. "I didn't come here to destroy him," she began, "but I came here to stop him." No one breathed. Diddy didn't flinch. But Jane did something even more terrifying to him. She told the truth. She described the night like it was etched into her skin, a penthouse suite, filled with strangers in suits and silk. Dim lights, no cameras, no phones, just music, loud enough to drown out a scream. "I remember walking in thinking it was just a party," she said. But it wasn't, it was a setup, and he knew it. She said Diddy poured her a drink himself. Watched her as she took the first sip. And then, as her vision blurred and her legs went weak, he just stood there, smiling. Not with kindness, but with ownership. "He didn't try to stop me from falling," she said. "He watched me collapse. And he didn't blink." The jury was frozen. So was the judge. The gallery leaned forward, silent, horrified. Jane described flashes, hands she didn't recognize. A bed that wouldn't stop spinning, shadows moving in and out of the room, and Diddy, watching, not helping, not leaving, just watching. He watched me die inside, she whispered. And he didn't care. Her voice cracked, not because she was weak, but because she had held this in 4 years, she said when she woke up hours later. Her body ached. Her clothes were torn. Her phone was gone. And the hotel manager told her she had no right to ask questions. That if she said anything, it would be her name in the tabloids, not his. I believed them, she said. For so long, I believed I didn't matter, that I had no proof, no power. Just pain. Then, for the first time, she looked directly at Diddy. You made me think I imagined it, but I didn't. I remember every second. Every time you turned away. Every time you watched. Every time you didn't stop them. Diddy didn't move. But the entire courtroom could feel his mask cracking. Jane's testimony wasn't just powerful, it was surgical. Every word hit like a blade. Every detail lined up with what other victims had said anonymously. Same method, same silence, same rooms. The defense tried to rattle her. They asked if she was bitter. If she was broke. If she wanted attention. She didn't flinch. I don't want money, she said. I want my life back, and I want to make sure no one else ends up like me. One juror had tears in her eyes. Another shook his head, angry. Even the court clerk was visibly shaken. After Jane stepped down, 2 other women came forward that same week. One anonymous, one not. Their stories were echoes of hers. Different nights, same pain. One of them said, it's like he had a script. And we were just extras. Outside, the media exploded. Hashtags, news segments, protesters, supporters. Jane's words became a rallying cry. He watched me die, inside was printed on signs. Murals went up. Survivors all over the world started speaking out. And Diddy, his team stayed quiet. His lawyers kept dodging questions. But inside that courtroom, no denial could compete with Jane's voice. The prosecution brought in hotel staff. One said she was paid extra to keep certain doors closed. Another said she found a woman sobbing in the hallway once, disoriented, barefoot, saying she needed help. But the hotel told her to forget it. The illusion was breaking. The empire was crumbling. And Jane, the woman he thought would stay silent forever, was the one tearing it all down.